Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric and Matt, and this is Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit, your beacon of freedom and the American way of life. Tune in every Mondays for a new episode as we dive into the world of liberty and what makes our country great. All right, everybody, welcome back. This is Eric and Matt here with LLP, and I hope everybody has had a wonderful week. Life, Liberty, and Pursuit is your home for all things normal in a world gone completely mad, and I appreciate all of our wonderful listeners and or viewers for coming back for another episode. And today we're going to be diving into some crazy stuff, and I can't wait to get into it. Matt, how are things?
Great, man. We wake up, both feet hit the ground, no back pain, no knee pain. We're good, man. We're good.
You know, so is this the 40 and over podcast now where we talk about all the crap that goes on when you start getting older and broke and all messed up and stuff?
Oh, yeah, man. Like just residual pains from growing, living life.
Yeah, just a general feeling of existential dread, a feeling of general terror, like you could die any minute. Kind of those feelings start to grow.
Yep, anxiety, stuff like that.
Yeah, okay, right on. So your knees are still working?
For now, until the next guy grabs a hold of my foot and starts to yank. That would be bad.
It's funny, like in the intro, I almost caught myself going a little bit William Shatner. I've been watching Star Trek, going back and watching all the Star Trek movies. And it's almost like, all right, today we will go and make our episode.
Yes. And the miming.
Yeah. And I start drinking coffee and I start talking about William Shatner, Yeah. That's
those movies were great, man. Like this, the OG ones with like Spock and Scotty and yeah.
The first Star Trek movie, oh my God, it's so freaking good that how can you top it? It's like the movies got progressively worse. But the first Star Trek movie was like, oh my God, it's so freaking good. It's so good. How can they top that? I mean, the colors, the filming, just the special effects. It's like, wow, they really knocked that movie out of the park.
I mean,
so good.
The Wrath of Khan was pretty good, man. Like that was a good one. Just like the whole story, like everything about it was good. I enjoyed
Search
that one.
for Spock isn't bad.
Yep.
I like the OG crew. You know, with Kurt.
Uhura.
Uhura. Yeah, exactly, man. Anyway, so today's episode, y'all, we're not going to be talking about Star Trek, unfortunately. We maybe in a future episode the content a little bit, but today's episode, we're going to be talking about, all of the stuff going on with the National Guard being deployed to various cities. And is this a form of government overreach? As we say in the title, a step too far. At what point does the government need to step in and intervene in society, and how much of that should we allow? We're going to dive into some nuance on this and discuss it. I have some feelings about it. I know Matt has some feelings about it, and we're going to give some of our opinions on the matter and see where we wind up. And I think you may be surprised. So before we get started, I would like to thank our friends at My Patriot Supply. Cold weather will be here before you know it. And you know what I realized the other day? If the power goes out when it's really cold, I have no way to keep myself and my family warm. Isn't that crazy? You could actually freeze. But when I heard about the Vesta off-grid space heater from our friends at My Patriot Supply, it's a space heater that doesn't use electricity. It runs on something called canned heat, which is an indoor safe fuel. It's a Vesta stashed in my closet. I know that I can keep warm no matter what, and it doubles as a stove to boil water or cook food, which is pretty cool. Now, the best part is that you can get a Vesta and a bunch of other free gifts when you order the Winter Prep Special from My Patriot Supply. Just go to mypatriotsupply.com/LLP, that's Lima Papa, to see everything that's included. This offer won't last long, and neither will this nice fall weather. So go to mypatriotsupply.com/LLP today. And a big thanks to our friends at My Patriot Supply, who've just been wonderful to us and helping us keep the show going and helping support us in our efforts there. So I'm sure that it goes without saying that there's been a lot of attention that's being given to the current state of things in our country. And it's not always easy to talk about because, people kind of have this like head in the sand approach to life sometimes. And I get it. Like, as I've said in previous videos, and podcasts with you, that life is hard and it's not getting any easier, and people are struggling in some cases to make ends meet. They're working hard. They're trying to do their best to take care of their families and enjoy a life of dignity and fun and love with their family. And sometimes that forces a person to choose very carefully how they spend their time. And sometimes it's like, hey, when you have a free hour or two, you'd rather go with your kids to the park or walk the dogs or do something with your family. And yeah, not everyone is going to sit on Twitter and doom scroll and see all the latest tea that is going on in the world. Now, granted, those dopamine hits, they do hit. And for many, it's a thing, right? But I'm not going to blame someone for not paying attention to some of the things that are going on, because some people are just simply ingrained in the joy and minutia of life. And that's okay. I'm not going to blame someone for not paying attention to issues if that's what they do. However, there's been a lot of attention and scrutiny drawn towards these National Guard deployments, right? There was a National Guard deployment in Washington to basically deal with crime, rampant crime that they were not happy with, Matt. And now we see that the National Guard's been deployed to, where's it, Seattle up there?
Yeah, I think it was Portland, yeah.
Portland, right. I mean, Portland, Oregon is such a weird little city, right?
But that whole area has always been very, very left-leaning. Like almost like to where I believe like the local governments were shut down for a like really long time. So yeah, the Guard is out there, and I believe it's because of in Oregon specifically, it's the ICE the ICE detention center. So I was watching a report, and they've been out there for a while apparently. So about 120 days or so, just kind of protesting in front of the ICE detention center as they're bringing people in and out.
And there's been some clashes and things, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's
always
when you start looking at stuff like that, there's always a reason to bring the Guard in. But when you start talking about government overreach, I think it's not the fact that the National Guard was deployed, and it's not just the National Guard. It's also like ICE, Homeland Security, all of those departments. I think the Guard is just the most prevalent one because they're seen the most. Lots of times it's like the ICE and Homeland Security are plain clothes, so you don't see them that much. But they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's what the Guard is in place for. The Guard is used as a state tool, unless they've been federalized and moved to a different state. Which is, to me, is kind of weird that you're using a different state's National Guard instead of your own National Guard. So that to me, I don't understand. Maybe I need to do a little bit more research on it, but I don't understand the concept behind that.
Well, think about it like this. Okay. You're driving along in your local city, or let's just say a highway that's adjacent to a local area you live in or something like that. Like here we have Highway 75. All right, you're cruising down Highway 75, you get pulled over for speeding. All right, and let's just say it's the county next to yours or something like that. All right, that cop that's running speed there for that neighboring county probably doesn't live in the county that he polices in. And that's very common, that a lot of people will go a county or two over to police because they don't want to police in a county they live in, because they don't want the locals knowing that they're a police officer and then treating them differently within the society they live in. So,
True.
Maybe, and of course, this is me speaking out of turn or speaking, let's just say, out of fashion here, but maybe it's that the reason they're bringing in another state's Guard is that the citizens of that state, was it Oregon? Right?
Oregon.
The citizens of Oregon don't have to carry out these things against their own people. They'll just use another state's Guard to do it. So then when those guys deploy back home, they're back wherever they came from, and they don't have to worry about the locals constantly unmasking them and knowing who they are. So maybe it becomes an OPSEC issue for them, where they want to maintain a little bit of a, anonymous fashion in terms of not being really known by anybody.
But I would argue that that's the reason that they're getting such a bad rap. And guys, don't get this wrong. I'm not advocating that you shouldn't, use the Guard or anything is wrong. But the fact that those people in the Guard don't have any ties to their state or their neighborhood, they're treating people inappropriately.
Okay.
Versus if you live in the area, you don't have to be unmasked because they know you. Maybe it's like when you walk into the store, like those old police, like the experiences where like you walk in and everybody knows the sheriff or the police officer, and they're like, hey man, like don't make me do this. And then they go ahead and just listen because they know you. You have a relationship with them.
It's a lot easier to deal with someone you know Like, all right, for instance, good example. If I got hemmed up on something and my sheriff came to talk to me, well, you better believe, like, I have a great relationship with my sheriff. I mean, that conversation is going to hit different for me.
Yeah.
Because I have a personal relationship with their family. Like, I know them. So, yeah, obviously, like, it's going to be way harder to not want to do the right thing. Not that I would ever be in that position, because I'm an angel.
He's a law-abiding citizen.
Law-abiding citizen. Oh, we must fight to the death, or they will kill us both.
Shatner.
Sorry, I've been watching too much Star Trek. But point is, you're right. Now, where would these things start to draw some wry from people or air from people where they're going, okay, well, we can understand you're bringing in another state's National Guard. And look, let's backtrack for a second. The governor of each state has direct control over the Guard resources in their state. Okay, they do receive federal funding, right? Considerable amount of, and mainly in the form of equipment, in the form of, let's say, like bases. Like if a state maintains a large infantry post, like here in Georgia, we have Fort Benning, we have Fort Stewart. I mean, those are large, posts that are within our state. Yeah, those receive a lot of federal funds to obviously, keep those bases going.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that there's some sort of underwritten kind of agreement that, hey, because our state hosts this much infantry or whatever, that, yeah, if there were a war or something, they're probably going to draw on the Georgia Guard maybe a little quicker than they may draw on some of the neighboring states just because of the resources we have in the state. Now, I'm speaking out of turn here, but the point I want to articulate is that the governor has direct control over the Guard and can deploy them within their state or other states I think with relative impunity.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they have to, go through some different channels, like when it comes to deployment on Title X to go overseas, like what we did. But generally, the governor, for an emergency or to render aid to a local state, I think it's pretty easy for them to rubber stamp and send the Guard wherever they want within reason.
Right.
So just want to make that clear in case people didn't know. Every state has their own Guard. Maybe just in case that wasn't known. And what is the National Guard, right? The National Guard is basically a reserve type auxiliary component of the military, right? You have the Air National Guard, which is like your Air Force version, right, of the National Guard. Like, kind of think of a Guard soldier, kind of like reservists, right? They go and they train, a couple of weekends out of the month or one weekend out of the month. They have annual training, 2 or 3 weeks. They may deploy overseas during their annual training if they're lucky, or the annual training may be locally, domestically. And they get together and they train skills and they build, unit, cohesion. And they are a group of people who can be relied on in the event of natural disasters, even to deploy overseas and fight wars if necessary. So the Guard can do anything that an Army Reserve unit can do, a Marine Reserve unit, so on and so forth. Okay.
I would say even more, because the difference between the National Guard and the reserve is the reserves don't have any combat arms components, which is why you usually see other states going in, and it's usually their infantry units or their combat arms units that are going in. The reserves are strictly support. So, yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah, so the Guards are the only ones that have actual combat.
Correct. Yeah, the reserves have no combat arms.
Huh.
It's strictly, they are there to supplement Big Army as support and logistics and everything.
So Big Army relies on the Guard if they need more combat arms.
Correct. And that's why they did so many rotations overseas in Iraq, and all those infantry battalions were going.
So at what point, all right, this seems rather innocuous. Okay, there's some trouble. People are causing some issues. Now look, is there a difference between protesting and causing an outright ruckus? Yes, there are. I mean, you have the right to protest, okay? Now, granted, there are probably some provisions and some rules for protests that you have to follow, but generally speaking, from what I understand, to organize a protest is not incredibly difficult. You can organize a mass protest, and by all means, protest. The police will protect you; they'll be there.
Yep.
I went up to an open carry rally at the state capitol. This has been some years ago. This is when Barry was still alive, and sure, they had organized a big open carry rally at the capitol, right? And it was like maybe a couple of hundred, 200 or 300 people showed up with guns, like, open carry.
Boy. Okay.
Rifles, on your chest, the whole 9
Wait,
yards.
the Georgia Capitol?
Yes, right up at the Georgia Capitol.
I thought you meant like
no,
I was like, oh my God, how did that go?
Open carry rally. So it's like you got 300 people standing around with long guns.
Yep.
Open carry rally. And it's just to show solidarity for the Second Amendment. And at the time, I think we were dealing with some potential anti-gun legislation in the state of Georgia, which is kind of odd to hear. But the state legislature in Georgia has generally been pretty good on that. And, Kemp, there's some things about Kemp I don't agree with, but he's generally been pretty good on guns. I think this was even back when Purdue was governor. So this has been a while. Okay. But anyway, you got 300 people out there with guns. And of course, the cops are out there too. That GSP was out there and they were armed. And it's like, hey, everybody was cool. They didn't give us a hard time. We didn't give them a hard time. They knew what was going on. We knew what was going on. And it was cool. We were able to speak at the Capitol, show our support and show our willingness to, let our voices be heard. And that's fine. You can protest all you want. At what point, though, does a protest turn into, crazy, politically driven, literal violence, such as, now you're talking pushing over police cars and burning buildings and setting the freaking police department on fire. Is that a protest anymore? I mean, maybe to the left it may be. They love to use violence and 100%. And destroy property. They love to destroy property. So again, without going on the limb of being called some statist or something, that's not what I'm trying to say, okay? I'm not trying to say that I agree with any government overreach of any sort. But can you really expect to be treated any differently if you act that way? I mean, I think that if you want to be treated with respect, you got to treat others with respect too. We have the right to protest. There are protocols for these things. We do it so that we all know what's going on. No one hurts each other. We let our voice be heard. All good, right? It happens all the time. Plenty of protests. I mean, look at that No Kings protest I had the other day. Now, I'm not going to get into the weeds in that. But the guard wasn't called out for that because, people were acting a little crazy. And there's some viral meme moments that are memeable for sure for some of the crazy characters we saw out there.
Oh, yeah.
But other than them just being crazy and a little batshit weird, they didn't really do anything wrong that would merit needing to, call a guard unit out to quell the issue. If the guard gets called out over an assembly or protest or something, it's because they have deemed that the level of violence has gotten to a point of no return that the local law enforcement can't handle on their own, or the local law enforcement is not willing to handle it on their own. Now, there are some things about all of this that don't set well with me, and I think, Matt, you and I are probably on the same page here. I want you to elaborate because I know what you're probably going to mention, this whole snatching thing where they're pulling people over. What do you think about that?
I'm surprised that nobody's been killed because that is a grade A way to get shot. Like and I say this because from what the reports are showing and from what all of the video evidence is showing, they're essentially black bagging people that they allege are here illegally. And you guys can look at the videos. They're all over the internet. They're just walking up plain clothes, what are believed to be federal agents. We don't know because they failed to identify themselves. So you'll see everybody's recording. Good. I mean, obviously we have the technology and we've seen it time and time again that, these videos have brought a lot of injustices to light. I am anti-government overreach. I don't believe you should even need a permit to protest. If it's a public area, you go out there. The only reason you need a permit is so that you don't have two conflicting protests going on at the same time. So to me, that's
I think it's also good that the cops know kind of like what's going on. So they know that you're not trying to do anything nefarious.
Fair enough.
Now look, I'm not saying that there should be some permit required, but if you're going to mass 500 people in one place to, especially if everybody's going to have guns, probably not a bad idea to let them know, hey, we're going to do this.
You can let them know.
Let them know so they don't show up with some freaking, trucks of armed men and try to cause a stink,
I'm not a fan of them shutting it down because you don't have a permit. Like if you're just letting them know, that's fine. But don't use it as an excuse to squash.
Yeah, like if they walk up, hey, what's going on? There's a lot of people with guns. Oh, we're just having a protest. It's all good.
Yeah.
Everybody's fine.
We're allowed
Look,
to.
the kids and dogs are here. There's a clown with face paint. Like,
Yeah,
it's like
barbecue,
make it a family thing. Yeah, and a lot of
Yeah.
times they'll make it kind of a family thing. When I went up to the rally in Virginia, the big 2A rally, oh my God, we had so many people show up to that 2A rally in Virginia. Thousands of people.
Yeah.
They completely flooded the streets. And I tell you, it was one of the most interesting things that I've ever witnessed as an American in terms of a demonstration, right? For one, everybody was armed. I'm talking, there were guys walking around with Barrett and 107s. I mean, there was guys walking around with scars. Everyone was armed. And I'm going to tell you, the demographic, the makeup of those people, all different sorts of people. Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, you name it, they were there.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody was represented. Nobody was at each other's throats. Everybody was getting along. They were all peaceful. Everybody was hanging out, eating snacks. They had freaking street food. I mean, it was great. And one of the most interesting things about that rally, when it was over, not a speck of trash on the street.
It's always like that,
They
man.
picked up
it is always
every
like that. I like it.
speck of trash. They didn't trash the place. Everything was in order and well kept. Not even so much as a fucking cigarette butt on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you tell me that is not an honest representation of the Second Amendment community, I don't know what is. So I always tend to view my ability to protest and let my grievances be known to the government as a Second Amendment supporter.
Mm-hmm.
I always view that as, with a bit of pride, because I know what my people were capable of. I know how good they are. And I know that they're all, good, honest people that are always going to do the right thing. So it's very easy for me to put my name in front of something like that, knowing that we got such great people, So
Yep.
Not every movement you can really say the same thing about, right? You look at all this the stuff with Antifa, and they're doing no telling what, and they're literally advocating for political violence at a far-reaching level. And so when you have a group of people who say, hey, we're going to get together and show up at the Capitol with our guns and just show solidarity and respectfully protest our ability, hey, like, here's our Second Amendment rights, we don't want them to be infringed, whatever. That's one thing when you come with a message of peace and you come with a message of solidarity, but when you come with a message of political violence and it's like an openly known thing and they don't even try to hide it, it's like, how are they supposed to react? That would be my argument. So, yeah, everyone's against government overreach. Nobody wants the National Guard to show up and start curb stomping people. Nobody wants people to show up and start black bagging people. No matter who on the left or right you talk to about this issue, no one agrees with the feds coming in and snatching people up in the night. Nobody wants that. Now there's probably a huge subset of people on the right who are tickled pink that their opponents are being rounded up and thrown in federal prison. And maybe some of them need to be thrown in federal prison, but not because they're politically divisive and being opponents of you politically, but because they've committed an actual crime. Maybe they've committed arson or they've damaged some property. Well, does it matter if somebody is a Democrat or Republican? If they've committed a crime, they've committed a crime. And in my view, nobody is above the law. So, okay, if these people are dumb enough to commit these crimes in the presence of these people and they get hemmed up, that's on them for doing that. All right. So in my mind, I don't really see a problem with those people being hemmed up. If somebody on the right did something terrible, they would get hemmed up too. I don't think they would make any distinction of someone's political affiliation if they've committed a crime.
Yeah, I would agree. However, the videos that are circulating are just normal people just riding the subway or driving down the street. They're getting pulled over, and it blows me away because
now we're discussing ICE detentions.
Yeah, yeah. So like,
I don't agree with that.
Just like ICE or Homeland Security, whoever they are, because again, they don't declare what agency they're with, which I don't understand how they get away with that. Yeah. And it just blows me away because you see it, and it's very reminiscent of like the stop and frisk papers. Like, hey, you have to show me that you're an American. Like, I don't really carry around anything that identifies me strictly as just for example, me, like I have a driver's license, but you don't need to be a citizen to get a driver's license. So it just turns into like this, oh, we're going to arrest you now, and then you have to prove later that you're a citizen, which goes against everything of presumed innocence before the fact.
Their argument is that an illegal doesn't have rights. So if they suspect you of being an illegal, they can detain you indefinitely until they figure out who you are.
But who's
in their mind?
Right.
I'm just telling you the way they think. If they're like, well, this person has no rights. But what about the situations where a person's detained and they are a citizen and they're
which has happened
way hugely inconvenienced for days, sometimes weeks, and no telling what type of legal fees they have to incur to exonerate their name against a group of people who simply, just thought they were illegal because maybe they were Hispanic or they were whatever.
And that and nobody around them are stepping up to help. So if I was there, and I'm not saying this because, I'm an armchair quarterback, I would have to be inclined to say something and do something if I see 2 or 3 guys that are in plain clothes, handcuffing a dude, that are refusing to identify what agency they work for, who they are.
Yeah.
How do you know who they are? It could be the KGB, man. Like, who knows, man? Like,
it could be someone impersonating
exactly
a nice officer, and maybe they're going to kidnap you or something.
What if it wasn't a guy? What if it wasn't a 40 or 50-year-old Hispanic guy? What if it was a
young girl,
a 16-year-old, girl of ethnic descent? And then they're just like 3 dudes in plain clothes, handcuffing and pulling off, refusing to identify. Then what?
Well, they are saying that there's over 170,000 applications on the desk to be ICE officers.
They're not grabbing the cream of the crop. I'll tell you that.
They have received a lot of applications. And look, I'm probably going to get some pushback on this, but the truth is I need to be sort of clear on this, right? When it comes to all this. The right has been relatively, and look, I can call it like I see it because I'm neither Republican or Democrat or Libertarian. I'm just a person who I'm looking at the giant globe like the sorcerer. I see what every side's doing, and I try to look at it from that holistic, overall crystal ball kind of view.
Call it how you see it.
I call it how I see it. So the right has been guilty of celebrating things like, they say, well, I voted for Trump and Trump is deporting illegals. Therefore, I'm getting what I voted for. All right, fair enough. Look, I fall into the camp where, there's some of these people that need to get out of here. Okay.
Obviously.
There's a lot
majority of them.
And right now, I read a report the other day that truckers are now seeing much higher wages because they have been deporting so many illegals. Well, if you're not having to compete with, what was it, some 20 million or something, like 20 million illegals they're saying are in the country.
Yeah.
If Americans who are trying to work hard and been here their whole life, doing the right thing, or they came here the right way and they immigrated here through the proper channels and they're trying their best to do the right thing and contribute to society, right? Those people are going to have a much better time in life not having to compete with people who really don't have any skin in the game. And I think that's the issue. I mean, look, I'm not grandstanding here. It's like my family's been here since 1630, right? Yes, we were immigrants, but there has to be a point where it's like, holy crap. I mean, my family's been here since before this country even existed, right? So it's like over the years, my ancestors seen a lot of things come and go. And it's like, you look at things now, as someone who's I don't know, what is it, 12th generation American or whatever it is at this point, I'm a can that's been kicked down the road a long way, right? And do I look at that and I view it with disgust that someone can just walk over the border into the land of milk and honey and be handed a full platter and have all of these services provided to them and, receive really good and dare I say special preferential treatment just by virtue of existing in my country and breaking the law and coming here? Of course, I don't agree with that. I think it's terrible. And it also spits in the face of people who are first-generation immigrants. Like, I know some people in my life that are first-generation immigrants. In fact, one person just got their citizenship, I think, last December. So absolutely a fresh American who went through all the proper process. Okay? Hey, I got nothing but respect for people who go through the proper process. We have a process for a reason, right? There are many people on the right who think that, we should even have more strict protocols for who we allow to come here, even through the proper channels. And you got people on the left who are saying, well, those proper channels should be expedited and we should allow people to come here in a much easier fashion. So, hey, some on the left are saying, it's cool. Like, we understand that you don't want people coming across the border, just, waltzing across the border. Well, then make the process for them coming in easier Then there's people on the right who are more like, well, we want the consequences to be much more difficult for them to be able to come in. Yeah.
But there any country, and I agree with you. Like if you ask anybody that went through the proper protocols and processes to become a U.S. citizen, or even a legal alien, a resident, whatever it may be, they will agree with you that what the people are doing to come here illegally are wrong. They don't like illegal immigration because they went through it the correct way. I think that
it costs a lot of money.
Yeah,
too.
A lot of money, but you also have to study. You have to prove that you understand American history, that you understand our culture, that you understand, like it asks you questions about, holidays, because they're trying to integrate you into the American culture. So it's like, hey, what is Thanksgiving about? Like these are tests that, like, hey, if you're going to be an American and you want to be an American citizen, you have to understand like what we do and where we come from. So I'm in agreement with that. But what a lot of people fail to realize is that America, the land of milk and honey, we only have so many resources at the time. Our society, our social services, meaning our hospitals, our roadways, our like any type of social service
availability of jobs
that we provide, there's a limit. That doesn't mean that, it's gone forever. That just means we have to scale. And, obviously America is the greatest country in the world, and people will say, oh, no, it's not. Bullshit. Everybody's still coming here. Why? Because we're the greatest. All right. We have the best opportunities. We have the best culture. Infrastructure. Like if there was for something above first world, that would be us. All right. I'm not bragging, but I am. All right. There's a reason everybody wants to come to America.
Maybe Dubai would be a close. Dubai is pretty awesome.
If you're a Dubai citizen, because they are minorities in their own country, and they're okay with that because they have a totalitarian government. Dude, you think America is bad? Please go over there
I'm speaking about it mainly from the standpoint of it being an extremely modern city.
It's
super nice.
But they have a very, very heavy hand on immigration, migration, and who can come and who can go, because you have to. Once your services become like bottlenecked, it slows it down and it ruins it for everybody. So
I think someone working at like a fast food restaurant in Dubai makes like $75,000 a year, something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Like even just working fast food.
So
being a street sweeper, like have the cleanest streets ever. You could like cook an egg on the street and probably be okay eating it.
So with that, just like America, our social services become overwhelmed. We have to throttle back and say, hey, you can come to the US, but it's going to be a year or two. You're
not going to see bums in the freaking in the gutter. You're not going to see people pissing and shitting in the street. You're not going to see that stuff.
It's like, hey, everybody likes let's just say like Coca-Cola, and you love Coca-Cola, and you're filling up a glass of Coca-Cola and the glass is full. You don't keep pouring. You stop. You stop pouring the drink, you drink it, and then you refill it. Just like all immigration, I personally love to have, people from other countries come in. They provide a great cultural difference. We learn a lot from each other. That doesn't mean they should be coming in 24/7. Our services get overwhelmed.
Well, let's say we pour a Coke, and it's like the most amazing thing ever. And like you said, that cup is full. You don't start adding more. And when that cup begins to get more empty, you just add more Coke. What we're doing is when the Coke is halfway full, we're adding a half a glass of water, and we're diluting it. We're diluting the quality of the product.
That's a very good, I guess,
analogy.
Yes.
I mean, look, I understand why people would want to come to America. I get that. And I didn't really want this show to be primarily about Immigration Day, but it is important because immigration is a hot button topic that is connected to all of this overreach because, the ICE detentions. Okay. Again, getting back to this left versus right paradigm, which sometimes I think is almost a little unfair to approach, right? It's simply not about left and right anymore, Democrat and Republican anymore. It's really just about what is morally and logically and legally right and what isn't. And yes, there is a lot of government overreach and there's a lot of crazy things that are going on that I don't agree with. But sometimes some of it is a little necessary. And that's what's so jacked up about it. Because it's like, I'm sure the truckers are really happy right now that their wages are higher because we've been deporting so many, people that don't have any business, taking American jobs.
Well, people are dying too. Truckers are running into people, yes, families killing them.
That whole fiasco in California where they were giving people truck driving license without even kind of any special requirements, which is as crazy of a state as California is, and all the things they require, all the permits. Like if you want to build onto your house or do anything to your house in California, it is a huge pain in the butt. You have to go through all this crap, especially if you live out in the desert anywhere and you want to, let's say, have a water cistern on your property, or you want to add sewage, or you want to do anything like that, septic, electrical, plumbing, any of that. Oh my God, the permits are out of control. Like, yeah, you can buy a little desert shack in the middle of nowhere for next to nothing and fix it up. But the problem is you're going to pay the man a ton of money just for the permission to do that. So a state like California, of all places, as militant as they are with paperwork and fees and things, there has to be some political undertone for why they are allowing those things to happen on their watch, because they know dang well that they want chaos. They want to create the chaos so they can come in and provide the solution.
There has to be some sort of lobby going on with truckers for them to allow that to happen. Like, hey, these illegal immigrants are willing to drive these trucks for half the price of American drivers, and our company's really going to benefit from it. And they're kind of padding the bank of their local, congressman or senator or house rep or whatever it may be. There has to be, because CDLs are very, very regulated. People think you can just go get a CDL. You cannot. Like, you have to go and you have to test for it. You have to do drug tests. You have to do physicals. I don't even know how they got past that part about how they got the actual driver
and you
physical.
Gotta be able to speak English, I'm sure.
You have to be able to read English signs. Yeah. So it's like, what happened here? How did this happen?
Now we're using the scope of, or we're using a very narrow scope of looking at it just from the standpoint of the truck drivers, but it trickles down through society, y'all. Everything from food service industry to anything else that you can possibly think of. Every area of life that an illegal immigrant can take a job from an American, you're seeing improvements in the quality of life of average Americans. And you look at all of this inflation. Inflation is absolutely out of control. And sure, Trump is adding some of these tariffs, but that is essentially still going to cause some inflation. Because, all this cheap Chinese crap that we're buying, I don't want to say crap, because China actually makes some pretty good stuff. Look at some of the top-end consumer electronics that you use on a regular basis. Even this iPhone is made in China. So China can make good things if you pay them to make good things. And that's the common misconception about Chinese goods, is that they're bad. It's not, I just say junk as in there's a lot of low-end consumer goods that don't cost a lot of money, like Tupperware dishes or, little small goods and things like that you can buy cheaper. All the stuff coming in from China is getting slapped with these tariffs, which will increase the cost of those Chinese goods in the store for you, the consumer. So, a Tupperware, let's use a Tupperware dish, for example. I don't know, say a little food dish or something that at the store, it might have cost $5 before, it might cost $9 now. Or $10 now. So you are going to see some trickle down effect of tariffs. Now, do tariffs, make the overall fiscal situation of our country better? Well, maybe for them. But again, getting back to the average American who's just trying to put food on the table, and many of them are living paycheck to paycheck. In fact, day to day and sometimes week to week, they're doing everything they can to maintain the struggle. Does that really help the average American at the end of the day, the end user? Okay, it's good that getting rid of these illegals is increasing salaries and maybe getting more Americans employed, which is great. It's bringing us more out of the hole, but it still doesn't solve the fractionary banking practices and all of this inflation and all of this sort of hidden grift. That is this underlying sort of veneer to everything that's going on. And what they desperately want you to ignore, they want you to not pay attention to all the printing and all, they're giving money away to all these people, and they're sending all of our money overseas. When you send money overseas, you're also sending your wealth overseas. You're giving your wealth to someone else. But what's worse, it's even worse the way they do it, because they go, well, we're just going to improve this $1.5 trillion budget like Congress is trying to push through right now. The Democrats are trying to push through a $1.5 trillion spending package. And of course, that spending package goes in all a bunch of different places, right? All their little buddies get their pockets padded, But the problem is that money, it doesn't exist. It's just created out of nothing. They just print it out of nothing with nothing to back it up other than the word of the United States government, right? It's a promissory note. So the issue is, okay, so you have $500 in your pocket and they print 1.5 trillion. How do you, as an individual out in large in society, how do you keep up with that level of waste? Now your dollar loses 10% of its value every year. I mean, we're talking almost every year we're losing over 10% of the value of our dollar. At what point is $100 going to become the new $1 bill? At what point during the winter are people going to be burning currency to stay warm? It's like, and in some cases, in some third world countries, they have to have so much currency to simply buy a loaf of bread. It's like they have Venezuela. Stacks of money. Yeah, so it's like you might as well use the freaking money for fire tender. It's
that's exactly what they were doing. They were
literally not even worth anything. So the danger of as a society that we have is far more engrossing and far more implicating than simply some feds deploying and black booting some people. And don't get me wrong, I hate that. But there is a moral, philosophical, and economical boot that is also on our neck that must be addressed. And that boot affects everybody. It's a phantom boot. It's not a literal boot. It is a moral boot that is always there. And I think that's a huge worry that we need to take into consideration as well, Matt.
Yeah, and that's...
They're spinning us to oblivion.
It's true, because if you look at it, the government currently is shut down. As of right now, no government spending. The TSA agents at the airports are working for free. Most federal employees, not all, because we're going to get to that in one second.
Still has to show up.
Yep. Well, Trump put through that special provision to pay the soldiers. Otherwise, they wouldn't have got paid, and he would have been in a world of hurt. So he did that to save his own ass. What? Well, he did. Most federal employees aren't getting paid, except for, guess who? Ding, ding. Congress. So Congress is getting paid. Of course, they're still collecting the check. I don't agree with that. I would say 99.999% of people don't agree with that. And that 0.0001% that does are the family members of the Congress people. So nobody agrees with it.
I mean, all those juicy stock trades aren't enough to keep them going. Come on.
No.
Like, dang well, like there are very few congressmen and congresswomen that are actually behind on it. Now, there are, I looked up the other day because I was curious to know where Thomas Massie was on this sort of chain.
Yep.
And okay, Thomas has his crap together, obviously. But there are some congressmen and women who are behind, like, owe millions of dollars and back taxes. So, okay, that aside, right, most congressmen are doing pretty dang good. In fact, better than good. Look at Dan Crimshaw's stock trades. In his first year as a junior congressman, he cleared a ton of money. How much of that was kickbacks and things? I'm not trying to call Dan out. But it's just, that's an example of a junior congressman, first year in Congress, and you're a millionaire already. Just, I mean, wow, you must really have some great stock trades. Yeah, I mean, of course that he knows which stocks to buy because he's being told what stocks to buy, because it's all a grift. It's all, you're in the club or you're not. And when you're in the club, you get access to all the inside information. You know what legislation's going through. They may not exactly tell you what stocks to buy, but unless you're dumb or blind, you're going to know. Oh, wow, this is about to happen. And I know 4 days in advance. Therefore, boom, we're going to short this stock now. So, boom, it takes off. And now we just cleared, we made millions of dollars in a matter of days.
Well, so with Dan Crenshaw in particularly, he bent the knee at some point in time, because when he first came on the scene, he was everywhere. He was fighting. He was very vocal. He was his social media presence, even when he was in Congress, his social media presence was very strong. He had a lot of support, a ton of support.
Early on, Dan Crenshaw and I were on good terms. Like, I thought he was a great guy, thinking like, okay, this is the kind of guy we need in Congress, like veteran, wounded, loves his country, pro-gun. Like, wow, Dan's an okay guy. And then, like, after a while, he kind of shed those sheep's clothes.
Well, the money got good to him, man. Like, money got good to him. And, I don't care if what he thinks when he hears the episode or his friends are going to send him the link. I mean, he bent the knee at some point in time. And it was probably around the time the original HPA was going into effect. Yeah. And he kind of let his true colors be known. But with that said,
it's disappointing.
It was very disappointing.
I had Congress much higher expectations for him.
I think a lot of people did.
And that's what hurts so much. It's because of his past. It's because of who he is. It's because the caliber of person that it takes to do what he did. And that's what hurts me so much is that you expect better. I can expect some crappy piece of crap politician who you see them and you go, oh yeah, we know exactly what we're getting with this person. But when it's someone like that and you think, okay, I have much higher expectations. Look, the truth is when you're a veteran, when you're former military, you have much higher
expectations.
Like society is going to be harder on you because they expect more from you. And look, if you're going to use your military experience as a calling card,
a Navy SEAL,
you're going to use that experience, then the morals and the principles and the love of your country have to come along with that. If you abandon those principles at any time, it becomes kind of null and void. And that's what's so sad about it. Like, he worked so hard in his career to get where he did. And then just kind of, I feel like he turned his back on his ideals.
Well, like I said, man, the money got good to him. He just wants to lay low. He's enjoying the ride. He's, which brings up a good point. I have something here that I wanted to bring up.
Sure.
So as far as like laying low and not being very outspoken in Congress, let's just say Dan Crenshaw's in the mix. He's still a relatively young guy, right? So his aspirations are probably to be a Chuck Schumer that's been in Congress for 44 years, a Mitch McConnell for 40 years, a Nancy Pelosi 38 years, Maxine Waters 37 years, Bernie Sanders 34 years.
Career
politicians. They've been collecting the check.
Yeah.
They've been running the stock game.
They have more money than they will ever be able to spend in their kids' lifetime.
Chuck Grassley, 50 years, bro.
It's wild to think that people have been involved in government longer than we've been alive.
Yeah.
And that's wild. And when you look at someone who's in their late 70s, 80s, heck, even their late 60s, really, they're almost too old to even suffer the consequences of their decisions. And I think that is a huge issue that we have to confront as a country now. Thomas Massie's been in the news lately. Of course, Trump has been gunning hard for Massie. And Massie is a politician that I support quite a bit. And that's rare for me. I rarely give my support to a politician. And I've seen every random, mud they're trying to sling at Massie. And I tell you, I've met Massie. I've broke bread with Massie. I've drank with Massie. Massie is a great guy, and he is not your average politician.
He seems like a bourbon guy.
He is totally a great guy, and I think that he gets a bad rap unfairly. Massie and I do not agree on term limits. Okay, I think we should have term limits. Massie's view on term limits is that what you're getting a lot more when someone begins to have an established voting record. Now that I agree with. Okay. But to Thomas Massie's effect, that is also assuming that we have a recorded vote on line-by-line item for every single issue at hand. Instead of passing one giant pork-ridden package, we should pass individual bills that allow the voting record of a congressman or a senator to be fully vetted. Right? You know exactly what they supported and exactly what they didn't, but they don't do that. They do it dirty. They do the dirty pork way, and they throw a bunch of crap in a bill so that a politician can just say, well, it wasn't the best written bill. There's some things I didn't really support, but in the name of, political partisanship, we, in order for us to cross the aisle, we have to sign off on this.
That would require them to work, Eric.
That would require them to work. So, in Massie's defense, okay, I understand when he says he doesn't support term limits, I understand that is also assuming that the voting records of these people is crystal clear and that we know every single little issue that they're on record for supporting or that they don't. So yes, I can disagree with Thomas Massie and agree with him at the same time based on his morals and his values and the reason that he comes to that conclusion. But how many politicians actually articulate their point in such a way that allow you to fully understand the reason that they make the decision?
Yeah, it's always...
And very few people do it, but Massie does. He'll tell you, hey, here's why I didn't vote for this bill. Because it's not fiscally responsible. Because it's not constitutional. It's not about his wants and needs as a person. He has to be above that. And so many of these politicians, Matt, they don't want to think about something that's above them. They want to feel like everything is below them, that they're on an ivory tower and everyone's trying to push them off. But Massie simply doesn't operate like that. So, I think that's rare for a politician to admit wrongdoing, if they've made a mistake, or to change course, or to, give an opinion that is well articulated, that it's not just some talking point that he took from the party. It's his personal view on, hey, morally, constitutionally, and fiscally, here is why I do or do not support measure, whatever it is. And they don't like him for that, because they don't like him because he won't toe the party line.
Well, that's because he wasn't a politician. He was a engineer. He just happened to run and win when he did. And that's what kind of separates him from the pack, is that he came into it. He had to learn how the political game worked. He wasn't an institutional, institutional politician from the beginning. When they usually come in, they're like, oh, I'm a state park director, and then the next one you run up and you're the commissioner for insurance for your state, and then you run for vice governor or lieutenant governor, and then you run for House Senate, and then you run for governor.
I think people pressured him to run. They're like, oh, you need to run for Congress. He's like, nah, and then. They kind of forced him, and he found that, wow, he's actually got a knack for that.
Yeah. So
they love him.
But your typical government, politician, that's how they come up. They they start very early, right out of college, and they're campaign managers, and then they start just kind of get their feet wet, which is what makes him unique. I think a Massie Paul ticket would be very interesting to see. That would be a blockbuster right there, man.
That'd be something else.
But as far as Overreach goes, I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. I know that in Chicago, of all places, there is a case of what I believe is a very egregious case of overreach, and it was a Lewis McWilliams, a black business owner, has a legal concealed carry license and a firearms license, because in Chicago, apparently you need two. You need one to own a firearm, and you need one to carry a firearm, which he had both of. He legally had both of them. Legal firearms owner in Chicago, of all places, probably one of the dangerous places on the face of the freaking planet.
And the most difficult place to own and use a gun legally.
And he had it. Police pulled him over. He declared his firearm. I saw the body cam footage myself. Declared the firearm to the police. Police were, to their respects, they were cool about it. They said, "Hey, where's it at? It's on my hip." He gave him both licenses. Apparently, his concealed carry license or his firearms license wasn't registered in the system, and all of a sudden, that's his fault. So now he gets arrested. He's got a couple of felony charges put on him. They took him to jail. And when he reached out, the state solicitor went ahead with the charges for some reason. And then another solicitor was like, hey, it clearly states in the law that if he has the physical card, which he did, and the computer system says he doesn't, no action is to be taken. Yeah. And they arrested him and put him in jail and charged him with a felony. Anyways, and I'm like, that's not your job. Your job as a police officer is to police. He was a law-abiding citizen, had both licenses. There's no reason that this man should be having to pay tens of thousands of dollars to get this felony expunged from his record. Listen, and that's overreach. I've ever seen.
That's overreach 101. Look, if you're watching this podcast or you watch my channel, my videos, and you're a police officer, The only thing I would say, I mean, look, I know it's not an easy job, and I know there's a lot of quick decision making, and sometimes it can be rough. I get that. I understand that. But you got to use your damn common sense, guys. Come on. Like, the guy has the freaking permit. He's trying to do the right thing. He's telling you he's got a gun. You know dang well that a criminal is not going to sit there and tell you he's got a gun.
That's right.
He's going to hide it. He's going to use it. He's going to run from you. You got a person who's being compliant with you. They're trying to be cordial. They're trying to treat you like a human being. And then you do shit like that. How do you expect people to actually want to go out of their way to even obey the law if you do those kind of things to them?
Yeah.
And it's like after a while, people can start thinking, well dang, do the police... are they insane?
Knowing that if you didn't have any of those licenses and they arrested you, you'd be out in 10 minutes with cashless bail. That's crazy.
You can't treat people like that.
Yep.
Okay. And I think that, there's a two-way street to all of this. I mean, like someone's just doing a job. I get that. Whenever I have a conversation with law enforcement, if I get pulled over or something like that, I'm always cool. I don't talk about the traffic stop. I'm talking about, hey, how's life? How's things going? I just try to make them feel secure. I don't want them to ever feel like I'm being a jerk or anything like that. Whatever they're going to do, like if they're going to write me a ticket, then write the ticket. I'm not concerned about ticket. I'll pay the stupid ticket. I don't care about that. But it's like in my mind, like, I've gotten pulled over before. If it's a Sunday, I'll be like, oh, you drew the short straw to work on Sunday? And they kind of chuckle. It's like, how it is.
Yep.
You know how it is being involved in bureaucracy. Someone gets extra duty or someone has to work on a day that they know they shouldn't have to work on. Like, well, your leave for Sunday is canceled because we need someone to guard this stupid ammo pile over here or something. Someone gets tagged for that detail. And yeah, no one wants to do it. Some people volunteer for it. But usually it's like, all right, draw straws, bitches. And it's like, oh, damn, I got to guard this stupid ammo pile all day. Yep. I mean, so that kind of stuff happens.
But there are advantages to that. And that's like...
you can get any day off you want.
Yeah. So an example is when we were in Iraq, I was younger. I didn't have any family. I wasn't married. I didn't have a wife. I didn't have a girlfriend at the time. I was a young dude. I was just out living life.
Didn't you go to Qatar?
I did. I got to go to Qatar, Doha, and Dubai, but that was because I volunteered 4 times to push my leave back. Because at least when we were in every rotation, every soldier gets 2 weeks back home. You would get to go and fly back home for 15 days and then you come back. But I didn't have any family, and we had a lot of people in the platoon that had kids and wives and stuff. So I just kept pushing it back. They were asking, "Hey, does anybody want to?" Every time I would come up, I was like, "Oh, give it to somebody else. Give it to somebody else." And then finally, we ran out of people to give it to. So I had to take it. But in between those times.
Yeah, here's a little 3-day pass.
Yeah, he gave me you
kept leaving on this 3-day pass. And I was like, dang, man, what the hell I got to do to go to freaking Qatar, man?
I would keep getting to go out to these little 3-day passes because I'm giving up my 2-week leave. And, so to your effect, there are some advantages to doing that.
There are.
But also there's some disadvantages because also in the military, you learn that if you're too good at your job, you get chosen to do it every single time. They no longer ask for volunteers. If you
volunteer for too much stuff, then you're kind of known as the guy who's willing to volunteer. Therefore, they'll peg you for something knowing that they may not get a lot of pushback. You'll just be like, yeah, I can do that. I don't have nothing else going on.
The path of least resistance.
It's fine. I don't need to rest on Sunday. I don't need to go to church. We're good. Yeah, I'll do it.
If you're too good at cleaning the latrine.
I think that, our country is at a very important impasse as a society. And I think that, more people are scrutinizing government overreach than ever before. And I think that, there were times in the past where maybe certain subset of society was paying close attention to what was going on. And I think that genie is out of the bottle big time. And I don't think they're ever going to put that genie back. I think that right now we're in a position where it's do or die. And I do believe that there are a lot of people in our government who are trying to do the right thing. And they are doing what they view to be the right thing and the moral thing, including our president. I think that he got under or behind the curtain and saw a lot more going on than than maybe he bargained for the first time around. And then, of course, you exacerbate those consequences by trying to kill the man and everything in between and all this political violence. And then, of course, Charlie Kirk getting shot. That changes everything because it shows that not only was the assassination attempt of Donald Trump, not a fluke moment, but that this political and moral battle that we're fighting has real consequences, as Charlie Kirk and his family and the whole nation saw. That completely changed the landscape of people's opinions on how they view these threats from especially the left, where they realize that these aren't just some disappointed teenagers talking about, some crap in jest and not being willing or able to carry it out. We're talking people who are not only willing to carry it out, but have carried it out. And you have to approach that as a literal threat. You have to sort of increase your threat level in life to include people who you might have normally just written off as crazy, but now these people are not just crazy. They're hiding in the bushes and potentially going to shoot you if they don't like you. And, you have to approach that in a very measured and careful manner. And, do I want the National Guard in our streets? No, I don't. Do I want a safe society? Yes, I do. Now, where I live, luckily, things are cool. Like where we're at, nobody really gets on each other's nerves or bothers each other. I mean, there's a little drugs being thrown around in the area that I live in. Mm-hmm. There's a little bit of domestic stuff, spats and things like that. There's a murder here and there. I mean, just like any society is going to have people murdering each other. But generally, it's safe to walk down the street. It's safe to exist in society. Everybody's cool, to everybody. And it's generally not too big of a deal. Now, I'm lucky that I live in kind of a more rural area of Georgia. It's kind of off the beaten track a bit, so it's not quite so bad here. Now, I could see where someone's results and what they see, it may vary depending on where they live in terms of how crazy some of this stuff is on a regular basis.
Yes, and, I agree. I think that, there has to be some level of, government interaction. I can't agree with the way that it's being done. It definitely has an air of overreach and totalitarian effect. And, we can't allow it as much as someone would agree with it. Like, oh, they're just getting out the illegals. And I agree. They are.
Is it going to stop there?
Exactly. You cannot allow the government to put their foot in the door. Just like with anything else, if we compromise on anything, whether it's the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, if you allow them being the government at any point to put the foot in the door, you've lost. You've lost because it will not stop at the foot. The foot will turn into the leg turns into the upper body. Next thing you know, doors wide open. So guys, even with the whole detentions and black bagging and scooping people up illegally, even if you don't agree with the illegal immigration or you have to not agree with the way that it's being done, because who's to say that it stops at illegal immigration? Who's to say it doesn't turn into red flag and say, oh, that guy's got a gun. And next thing you know, the old guy that has a revolver is getting black bagged and taken to a black site. And people say, oh, you're jumping to conclusions, but I'm telling you, that's how it starts.
What happens when the left is in power again, and now they resort to these same tactics for a completely more asinine and crazy reason?
Yep.
That's what gets me, is like, imagine if the left was engaging in these types of tactics. And imagine if their reasoning was, well, you're a veteran who owns guns, and, we're worried about right-wing extremism. Like, even the FBI put out documents about all of this.
Yes.
You're calling us, potential threats and things. It's like, what? I mean, to think that pendulum can just swing in the other direction just that quick in just a few short years. And now the same people who were rounding up these illegals, now they're going around trying to round up gun owners, or they're trying to round up Christians, or whatever they decide. I mean, at that point, do you really want them to have the ability to do that? I mean, no. I guess that's what people ultimately have to ask the question. If you see the government carrying out force, and let's say that force benefits you, you're like, oh, yay, they're getting illegals. Okay, all good and fine, but bear in mind that same force will eventually be used against you Okay, so just because right now the people you like are in charge doesn't mean it's always going to stay that way forever. So I think the only way to completely solve the issue is to remove the ability of the government to, engage in such overreach. So it's a sensitive subject, and I know people have a lot of different views on it. I know my views are similar to yours. I don't agree with it, but at the same time, what are we going to do about the illegal situation? I mean, like, if you don't directly combat the threat and your society, again, your beautiful half a Coke just starts getting nasty water dropped into it, it's like, well, this isn't a Coke anymore. At what point is the entire, sacred pact of your society even realized if you just allow people to just come in completely unvetted? Like, is that not an invasion?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an invasion.
It is, and what I'd like to remind everybody, and I know it gets beaten to death, especially on social media and long form content, is the poem from the German pastor Niemöller, and I'm sure you've heard it. It's first they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. So if you just think about the context of that poem and what it means, it can play out even to this day. So it doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right, or you're a libertarian or an anarchist or whatever it may be. You have to look at it and say you can't stand for government overreach in any form, because if it's used for you, it can be used against you. It just depends on which side of the glass you're looking.
Yeah, absolutely. It is absolutely true. I appreciate everybody watching today's show. Remember that we post we've been posting on Sundays lately, and that seems to work out well.
Yeah, it's been great.
A lot of folks like the Sunday release, so we're probably going to stick with the Sunday release moving forward, y'all. So Sundays around 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time each week. You can find Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit on YouTube in video form, as well as where all of your favorite podcasts are found, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, etc. Anywhere you can find podcasts, we're there. So we have a really dedicated listener base in terms of downloads, but also a lot of dedicated viewers. So if you want to watch the show in video form and see our ugly mugs, you can do so over on YouTube if you wish to, or listen in, download. Feel free to drop us a good rating. That helps us show up in the search results. I'd be much appreciated, much obliged if you would do that. And honestly, Matt, I think you said everything. I don't really have anything to add. I know this is a sensitive topic. I'd like to know what some of you think. What do you think about this government overreach? Is it overreach, or is it just the government doing the job that you put them there to do? And if so, if you believe that, are you okay with the same force being used against you one day?
It will happen.
Pit for pat, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. I mean, are you game for what may come in the future from an unfriendly administration? I'd like to know what you think. Many more podcasts on the way. Thank you all so much. I hope you all have a great week, and we'll see you soon.
Stay classy, San Diego.
Thanks for listening to Life, Liberty, and Pursuit. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else podcasts are found. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. We'd really appreciate that. You can support us over on Ballistic Ink by picking yourself up some merch. And remember, guys, danger is freedom. Have a good one.